Well, in my opening statement, the president of his words. Now, before you get your undies twisted and come at me saying, what? A president of his words? Really? What has he done? Where's the economic prosperity? Where's the beautiful Sri Lanka he promised? Where's the change he enticed us with? Well, calm down, Nelly. I understand that we, as Sri Lankans, are really good at one thing, and that's forgetting. PhD holders of that. If we assess this president's tenure in office, we have to evaluate it based on what he promised us and how he has done based on those promises. We can't in any way do it based on the useless noise sponsored courtesy of our clown clan from the opposition. So let me take you forgetful people back to August of 2019, right before the election, the presidential election. Remember the state our nation was in? Of course not. Mahieash, you think we are magicians to remember something of 2019, whereas we don't even freaking remember what the heck happened this morning? Alright then, for you forgetful people, let me just do that, remind you what happened. By August of 2019, we've experienced one of the biggest financial frauds of Sri Lanka, the bond scam, courtesy of the governor of the central bank, Arjuna Mahendran, appointed by the then Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, despite all objected of a foreign national appointment to Sri Lanka's central bank. The economy was so out that even for a transaction we make to take our own money from our own bank account, we were taxed. Talking about taxes, Sri Lanka had one of the highest tax brackets in history. Everywhere you look, tax, 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 tax this, tax that, everywhere tax. The IMF, the World Bank and all foreign money lending organizations dictated how we run our country because we've taken so many loans. State assets were sold like hot hoppers. In my opinion, one of the worst economic crimes, more than the bond scam, occurred during the good governance joke, where two significant assets like the Hambantota port and the port city was renegotiated to China in a manner that was so unfavorable to Sri Lanka. One of the achievements of the clowns at good governance. Inflation was at its highest due to mismanaged, erroneous economic policies courtesy of self-proclaimed economic masterminds like Ranil Wickremesinghe, Dr. Harsha De Silva, Eran Wickramaratne, and of course the late financial minister Mangala Samaraweera. Oh wait, how can I ever forget Asia's best finance minister, Ravi Karunanika? At least we felt safe, right? Wrong again. In 2019, exactly 10 years since we won the war, after our armed forces made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure to bring this nation out of a curse of 30 years, guess what? The so-called good governance jokers managed to carry out one of the heinous crimes committed on Sri Lankan soil by allowing our intelligence units to fall apart, thus allowing cowards like Saharan, whom a worthless Islamic ideology led to carry out a coordinated attack on over 250 innocent Sri Lankan lives. That was the state this country was in. The nation state was so bad, even then president, the clowns of all presidents, in my opinion, Maithripala Sirisena, couldn't even run for a second term. If you were so incompetent, well, guess you would have been the president of this country at that time. Now, against this backdrop, now President Gotabaya Rajapaksa came forward to lead this nation from the good governance debacle, that curse. At that time, he made several promises in his manifesto to the people of this country, just simply 10 key policies. And mind you, at that time when he was making the promises, there wasn't anything called COVID in the cards. Those 10 promises were priority to national security, non-aligned foreign policy, corruption-free administration, a new constitution, productive human resource, economic development for the people, technological revival, infrastructure development, environmental management, and a value-based society. I think he has completely failed on the last one so far. And tonight we are left to assess the success of the current president as he completes 2 years in office based on those promises he made. Not the jokes the clown clan tells you and me in front of the media and on social media very especially. Well, to get a comprehensive look and to assess the whole 2 years, guess who's here? Mr. Dhanithu Thanamasam, our facts and figures guy. Good evening, Dhananjay. Good to see you once again. I remember in 2019, I think you just started at Derana, and that was your first election, the presidential election. And I remember when the results were coming, you were sleeping somewhere because it was overnight. I think bedtime passed for Mr. Dhananjay Vithanavasam, and I think we've got to know that we had a new president. That was the start. 2 years down the line, what is your take, and what exactly are you focusing on the real story tonight?
Well, since my history was referred, I think certainly a sad point to be asleep when the country actually woke up that day. My focus will be on really clearing some of the clutter, clearing some of the doubts that have been existing within what this government has done. And let's sort of take an objective review of all of this. Now, the current president, alongside his administration, has made a number of critiques over the past 2 years pertaining to absolutely any measure the current administration takes. It is important, therefore, to look back at the track record in an objective assessment as to where we are as a nation. The key policies of focus within this administration were fleshed out quite well in the Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor manifesto, which then was held quite consistently by the administration. In reaching 2 years of the president's tenure, it is important to look back in assessment. The 10 key policies have been national security, foreign policy, corruption-free administration, creation of a new constitution, productive citizenry or human resource, people-centric economic development, technology-based society, development of physical resources, environmental management, and building a value-based society. Firstly, on the important aspect of national security, 18 billion rupees had been allocated from this year's budget in order to continue the strong efforts to weed out terrorism and ensure safety for all citizens. It is this aspect that makes sure all other sectors of the country can function, especially when considering the question of foreign investment. A total of 727 suspects have been arrested since April 21, 2019, in connection with the Easter Sunday attacks, out of which 91 have been detained under detention orders. A special 3-member panel of judges has been appointed to hear the cases pertaining to lead suspects of the Easter Sunday attacks. The proceedings will begin towards the end of November. Steps have also been taken to strengthen the National Intelligence Agency, which now works towards eradicating drug trafficking within the country. Amidst these developments, the President has established a task force to build a secure country and a disciplined, virtuous and lawful society. Meanwhile, a component which the entire world was taken by storm was the pandemic, thereby making health security an important aspect to discuss. The method through which the government dealt with this issue had been praised by global health professionals, including and especially the WHO. Today, Sri Lanka is proudly one of the highest vaccinated countries in the whole world and leads its regional neighbours. Close to 14 million people have received both doses of the vaccine. Foreign policy. An iconic policy decision by the Sri Lankan government was the removal of Sri Lanka's commitment to the 30/1 resolution in the UNHRC, which was implemented by the good governance regime. This was detrimental to Sri Lanka as a whole, and was the first time a country sponsored a resolution against themselves. Building on this policy measure, the current government has rebuilt solid relations that are consistent with more long-term partnerships with nations interested in the development agenda of Sri Lanka. It is based on these efforts that the country managed to procure the required vaccinations to deal with the pandemic. Prevention measures are being taken to address the adverse effects of the resolution in Sri Lanka passed by the European Parliament on the 10th of June 2021. Under the heading, The Situation in Sri Lanka, in particular the arrests under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, the Foreign Ministry appointed a working committee in 2020 to evaluate the current state of implementations of the Sustainable Development Goals and to propose how to proceed in the future. Despite the fact that the opposition continues to portray that the current administration has issues with the West, the foreign policy that the current president has undergone with has led to American investors moving to Sri Lanka. The US Embassy has stated that a number of businesses and investors have come into Sri Lanka willing to do large-scale projects, such as the investment by New Fortress Energy Company.
We believe that the extent to which the resources and time of this council has been utilized on Sri Lanka is unwarranted and carries a discouraging message to the sovereign states of the global south.
I call on the member states of this August Assembly to work together in a spirit of true cooperation, generosity, goodwill, and mutual respect.
An administration free of corruption. The current president initially gained recognition for his stellar record in public service. Stemming from this position was the commitment to eradicate the public service of corruption and focus on building efficiency. Key decisions such as the revision of salaries of heads of public institutions took precedence, where a notable example is the reduction of the salary of the chairman of the Sri Lankan Telecom from 2 million rupees to 250,000 rupees. All government agencies have been directed to integrate into a single data network for an efficient public service. State institutions have been informed, including state corporations and statutory boards, that none of the heads and staff members appointed by the government shall be involved in any party or political affair during the general election in order to ensure a better public administration. A new constitution. It is very evident that the country needs a new constitution based on the discourse that has occurred thus far. A constitution which addresses the needs of all ethnicities and builds a one country, one law system. 3 committees of experts were appointed to submit policy-based proposals in this regard. The President has streamlined the processes of building a new constitution by appointing highly qualified lawyers to lead the effort and other bodies to support the political context of the country in drafting the constitution.
Sri Lanka tula ekama ratak ekama නීතියක් ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම සඳහා වැඩ කටයුතු කරනවාද කියලා ඉල්ලලා තිබුණා. එකම රටක් එකම නීතියක් යනුවෙන් අපි කල්පනා කරන්නේ ලංකාවේ ජීවත් වන සියලුම දෙනාටම නීතිය එක හා සමාන ලෙස ක්‍රියාත්මක විය යුතු බවයි. In spirit and in letters. එය පොදුවේ රට තුල සෑම තැනකම ක්‍රියාත්මක විය යුතුයි කියන එකයි එකෙන් අදහස් කරන්නේ.
Human resource. A structured approach to developing education and making a more skilled population was a key focus of the current administration. This has extended to taking a more serious look at equipping the youth with skills to uplift the country's conditions in the long run. The establishment of the Anamadua Technical College, the establishment of the Ocean University's Panadura Regional Centre, and the establishment of the Vocational Training Centre at Horana, at a cost of 615 million, provides examples of the large-scale development efforts taken by the state towards the increase of human capital.
Then the last part is the VTA and the youth vocational training, and that is really critical. So I think there was a lot of effort that put by then VTA chairman Damita Wickramasinghe and the new chairman as well, to make sure that you introduce the right programs, right curriculum, and build that talent pool. And we also don't have a mechanism, like if you look at Australia, you can go to you call TAFE, right? You can do vocational training. Yeah. At a certain point, you can come back to the university system and further study. Yeah. We need to also create that.
Economic development has seen a multi-sectional approach which cuts across some of the most important parts of society. The President was quite consistent in his push to protect and promote the farmer within Sri Lanka. Today, the rice farmers receive a guaranteed price of between 50 rupees to 60 rupees per kilo of paddy as never before in history. This is coupled with the effort to produce 100% organic farming practices within the country by banning the use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides. The amount spent to provide organic fertilizer to farmers free of charge during the YALA and MAHA seasons of 2020 was 282.28 million rupees, and it was distributed among 81,610 farmers. Development and modernization of grass cultivation, silage production, feeding units, and farms by getting 2,765 families involved to manage small and medium-scale dairy farms were undertaken. Construction of the North Central Province Mahieash project has also commenced, which upon completion will be the longest irrigation tunnel in South Asia. Furthermore, a new battalion named Sri Lanka Army Corps of Agriculture and Livestock was established to uplift the agriculture of the country. 270 million rupees has been allocated to the Department of Agrarian Development to improve 300 agrarian service centres island-wide for organic food production development. Within the development strategy, plans have been made to locally produce 50% of the country's pharmaceutical demand within the next 3 years. This has been supported with the construction of a 400-acre investment zone at the Hambantota Industrial Zone for the production of drugs targeting foreign markets.
The pharma zone that we are building in Hambantota, that is cleared for any type of drug manufacturing in the country, whether it is just a formulation of a Panadol pill to an API, active pharmaceutical ingredient, which is the key ingredient to make any drug, to oncology, which is cancer drugs which can be radioactive. So you can produce anything or even medical devices under that zone, under one roof. So once a company comes in, it doesn't need to run for a post to pillar to get approval, environment clearance and all that. It's pre-cleared. You come in, the project's viable, there's a committee that's been put in to give the tax structure and the tax benefits, you start right away.
Technology-based society. The digital economy in Sri Lanka, estimated to be $3.47 billion or 4.3% of the GDP, is gradually emerging within the country given this administration's latest efforts. Sri Lanka's ICT workforce is supposed to reach 300,000 from 125 in 2018, which would then be supporting a $3 billion industry by 2024 from the current $1 billion. Development of physical resources. 9 fuel storage tanks with a capacity of 87,000 metric tons are being constructed at the Kolonnava Oil Storage Complex. A feasibility study is being done on raising the capacity of the Sapagaskanda oil refinery from 38,000 to 45,000 barrels per day and constructing a new refinery with a capacity of 100,000 barrels at Sapagaskanda. The project is expected to cost approximately 600 billion rupees. As a result, this will be the largest project in Sri Lanka's history. Meanwhile, negotiations are underway with the Government of India to reclaim the Trincomalee oil tank complex. Amidst the COVID-19 pandemic situation in the country, Sri Lanka's first large-scale wind farm in MAHA commences operations in May 6th of 2021. Under the Dayata Eliya program, electricity was provided free of charge to some of the beneficiaries and the low-income families within the country. At the end of 2020, the number of electricity consumers was 7.2 million, and accordingly, 254,988 new electricity connections up until September 2021 under the new administration. 264 water projects are being implemented covering all provinces in order to provide clean drinking water for all by 2025. Meanwhile, officials have been assigned to complete the project for the construction of 100,000 kilometers of rural roads and connect them with the main road network by 2024. 195.62 kilometers of provincial and rural roads have been developed at a cost of 3.7 billion rupees, and over 25 billion rupees has been spent for the construction of 597 rural bridges. Sustainable environmental management. One of the biggest decisions taken by the current administration was towards the environment in introducing organic farming practices within the country. In addition, the tree planting national program, Kakulu Thuru Udane, was launched to get children involved in tree planting. The expected target is 1.7 million saplings in 5 years. Implementation of the Colombo Declaration on Sustainable Nitrogen Management aimed at halving nitrogen emissions, which contributes to reduction of overall greenhouse emissions, is also taking place.
The Paris Declaration in 2015, every nation should announce when they are going to achieve net zero carbon position. So some countries say 2060. Most of the countries have announced that they will achieve it by 2050. Sri Lanka will also has planned to achieve net zero carbon emission by 2050.
A value-based society. Unfortunately, given certain actions by the opposition in today's status quo, the instilling of a value-based society has not been successful. People are acting as if the world is not in a pandemic. Some people are nudging towards pushing this country into a dangerous situation while the current administration has done enough to control the pandemic. People haven't been responsible in understanding that they play a pivotal role in this regard.
People had a lot of hope when he came into office, but unfortunately the country has gone down in every aspect. The economy especially, most of the countries had to go through the COVID-19 pandemic, but almost all the countries recovered, and also they took decisions to manage this pandemic in a better way.
When considering these concrete steps taken by the current administration led by His Excellency President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, we must revisit our initial thoughts of whether bringing in a competent leader was all the change we needed, or should we change as citizens as well. Mahieash, contrary to certain beliefs, I believe the future does in fact look bright for this country.
Of course, if what you said in the end, where if people also can change, or well, we might actually have a paradise island here in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much. Good stuff there, as always, with the real story. Right now, we are going to take a short commercial break. Upon our return, I will sit down with State Minister of Urban Development, Dr. Nalaka Gudeheva, to get his response to some of the criticism that's leveled against the president during the past 2 years of his presidency, and see what objectively lies for him in the next 3. This is Get Real. Be back in a moment.